Every royal correspondent in Britain has been sitting on this story, darling, and the lid has just been blown clean off. A respected royal biographer has put into print, in meticulous and rather devastating detail, what an enormous number of sensible people in this country have suspected for the better part of a decade. That the Queen herself, our late beloved Queen Elizabeth, privately told Prince Harry to wait a full year before marrying Meghan Markle. He gave her 6 months. And the rest, as they say, is a rather sorry chapter in the history of this family that we are all still living through. Hugo Vickers is not some chap who once spotted a corgi outside a palace gate and decided to write a book. He met the late Queen more than 40 times over 5 decades. 40 times. That is not the profile of a gossip. That is the profile of a man who was trusted, who listened carefully, and who took note of what he heard. And what he heard, and what he has now committed to the permanent record in his forthcoming biography, is that the most experienced constitutional monarch of the modern era took one look at the speed of this courtship and quietly, privately, wisely said, "Wait. Just wait." She was not alone in saying it. Prince William expressed privately that Harry should take more time to get to know her. King Charles reportedly told Harry to enjoy the romance but not to marry her. Prince Philip, never one for sentimentality, referred to Meghan simply as the American and was reportedly not taken in at all. 4 people. 4 separate, experienced, deeply invested members of that family, each of whom loved Harry and wanted the very best for him, each of whom said in their different ways, "Slow down." And Harry, bless him, heard none of it. Now here is where I have to be entirely honest with you, because that is what I do and that is what this requires. The question of whether Meghan deliberately orchestrated a swift marriage, whether she played Harry to get what she wanted, is a serious accusation and one that cannot be stated as established fact. What we can state as established fact is that the warnings came from everywhere, that they were ignored completely, and that the outcome of ignoring them has been rather catastrophically apparent ever since. What the Hugo Vickers book adds, and what I find genuinely illuminating rather than merely salacious, is the picture it paints of the late Queen's state of mind on the wedding day itself. She reportedly disliked the dress. Too white, apparently, with what were described as ungainly shoulders. And her attitude to the whole affair was captured in a single sentence by someone close to her. "You get on with it. It's nothing to do with me." Now think about that for a moment. Our Queen, who gave 7 decades of her life to this country and this institution, sitting at the wedding of her own beloved grandson and privately feeling not joy, not relief, but a kind of weary, dignified detachment. That breaks my heart. It genuinely does. There is also the matter of what Queen Camilla observed during the period when Harry and Meghan were still technically working royals. Tom Bower reports that Camilla confided to a friend, "Meghan's brainwashed Harry." Prince William and the Princess of Wales believed Meghan was not reconciled to what was deemed her destiny in London. She lamented Harry's unlikely chances of one day being king, just as she regretted the possibility that she would never be the Queen. And so, if one accepts that analysis, the picture that emerges is of a woman who arrived in this country with her eyes very much open, who understood exactly what the institution was, who married into it knowing she found it too constraining, and who then spent the years that followed maneuvering her way out of it while taking as much of its reflected prestige as she possibly could along the way. Whether you call that tricking someone or simply making a calculated decision that suited her better than it suited anyone else, the effect on Harry has been rather plain to see. Tom Bower describes what happened to the young man who was once described as the sociable, cheerful lad about town. He changed his telephone number without telling his own family. He cut off his oldest friends. His personality increasingly mirrored Meghan's. Emotionally, he moved toward extremes. Simple dislikes became passionate hatred. That is not the description of a man who is flourishing. That is the description of a man who has been entirely remade, and not, one suspects, in a direction he would have chosen had he been given the space and time to think clearly. The Queen saw it, William saw it, Charles saw it, Philip saw it, Camilla saw it, and not one of them could reach him. There is something quite terrible about that image if you sit with it quietly for a moment. A family standing at the edge of something, watching one of their own walk steadily away from them, arms outstretched, voices raised, and being utterly unable to stop what was happening. The institution survived. It always does. But Harry, one fears, is still somewhere out in that fog, and the fog has grown rather thick. What strikes me most forcefully, and what I think the Vicar's book makes undeniable, is the wisdom the late Queen brought to every single situation she encountered over 70 years of public life. She had seen enough of human nature to know that love, genuine and passionate as it may be, is not the only thing a marriage requires. It requires judgment. It requires patience. It requires the willingness to truly know another person before binding yourself to them for life. She asked for 1 year to be certain, and that request, from a woman of her experience and her devotion to Harry's well-being, was set aside in rather fewer than 6 months. I want to be careful not to reduce all of this to simple villainy, because human situations are never that tidy, and this one is no exception. Harry was lonely. He was grieving, in ways he is still clearly working through. He wanted a family and a partner and a settled life, and he wanted them with a speed and urgency that left him, perhaps, rather less discerning than the occasion demanded. That is not weakness. That is being human. But it does mean that the people around him, the people who knew him and loved him and could see what he perhaps could not, deserved to be listened to. They were not. And now we find ourselves in 2026, with a book by Hugo Vickers about to land in bookshops, with Tom Bower's allegations circling the world, with Harry reportedly seeking some form of reconciliation with his father, while simultaneously remaining rather thoroughly attached to the arrangements Meghan prefers, and with the institution that was supposedly so cruel and suffocating continuing to do what it has always done. Serving, enduring, getting on with it, as the Queen herself would have said, with quiet and rather magnificent dignity. That is the thing about our royal family that Montecito has never quite understood. The crown does not require your approval. It does not need your validation or your Netflix deal or your Oprah special to justify its existence. It simply carries on, as it has always carried on, through abdications and wars and constitutional upheavals and the occasional rather bewildering lifestyle brand. It carries on because it is built on something deeper than any individual within it. And that, in the end, is precisely why the warnings Harry received were worth heeding. They were not the warnings of an institution trying to control him. They were the warnings of people who understood, far better than he did at the time, what he was walking away from. One hopes he understands it now. One genuinely does. Because Britain has not stopped being his home, and we have not stopped being his people. And the door, for all the damage that has been done, has not yet been permanently locked.